Welcome back to another episode of the Heroes Veritas podcast. I'm your host, Tim Bass, and I have a very special episode today because Ejay Cruz is in the house, host of the Parables podcast, financial advisor, Level Up Society speaker, motivator, at least in my life for sure. He's been a motivator, family man, and just all around amazing person. And I'm so grateful to have you on the podcast, my brother. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, man. Tim, I can't thank you enough. Off camera, we were talking about how it's been a while since we've caught up, and what better way to catch up than going live on your amazing podcast show, man. So I really appreciate you for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was personally, I just needed a reason to make sure that I had use of your time because you're a busy man. But I mean, I wanted to catch up with you. I wanted to touch bases with you, and I also knew the type of person you are, the amount of value that you're going to bring to the podcast is just going to be phenomenal. So I'm going to be drinking, somewhat celebratory because we haven't talked in a while.
So am I, brother. Let's go.
All right. So I'm going to be drinking John C. Fremont bourbon. Now, this one is kind of special for me because this was a gift at our inaugural King's Calling.
Nice.
So this one is kind of a celebratory bottle. I've only had one other glass out of this, and that was cheersing the success of King's Calling, my very first one. So cheers to you. You're a very special person in my life, and I love you, brother.
Likewise, man. I appreciate you.
Not to cut you off, but you know me, I'm not one to take praises very well. But I really wanted you to be on the podcast because where we met originally was Arete, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, Arete Syndicate.
And that was quite a while ago. That was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's close to 5 now.
Yeah. And during that time, we were super heavy motivated. I mean, we were running full bore in a totally different direction than where we're at now.
Oh yeah. It's crazy when you look back, right, Tim? Like kind of you think about like your journey and you look back of kind of where you are like in the beginning. I know for me personally, that's where I felt like my entrepreneur journey like really, really started, in my opinion, at least for me. And so I look back and, at the time, like for me, for example, I was doing a little soul searching, but I was trying to get an apparel brand up and running, man.
Oh, right? I remember.
Yeah.
I remember we talked about, that's how we connected because I was running True Rain at the time.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. That's why we clicked automatically, right? And so, it's interesting. I obviously fast forward to today, that's not kind of where, I ended up going with, even though I still have, dude, that's so funny you bring that up, Tim, because I remember we would have conversations about, fashion and what's hot and what's whack, but yeah, man, I still have that appreciation for sure. The art, the creativity, and every now and then that little kind of like, I don't want to say that little boy, but like that really, really excited, like, like creative side of me wants to come out and just kind of like maybe just do something small or just like a small like line, you know what I mean? Of like just like
it's a culture, man. It's hard to get. I have that bug. Like I made t-shirts for Heroes that I didn't even need to make just because I wanted t-shirts.
Yeah.
Right. Like that, like to your point, that creative side. But there's the thing that we really clicked on when it came to like apparel, fashion, t-shirts is it's a culture, right? Like there's a vibe in that space that you don't get anywhere else. And depending on where you're aligning yourself within apparel, it's a different culture. It's music, it's hobbies, it's everything. And so I know how much you enjoy connecting with people. Like I have always considered you the network guy. Like you love to connect with people, and you have an uncanny ability that I know is cultivated. So I don't want it to say that it's like a blessing or a luck, because I know it's cultivated, but it's something that I've always admired about you. And I've spoken to you openly about this. Like I've always wanted to cultivate that ability to network the way you do.
Yeah.
And admittedly, that the teachings that I have, especially now with my clients, about being open and honest and just understanding the intuition of how people read each other, I stole that from you. Like,
I appreciate it.
Unscrupulously stole that from you.
It's so crazy, bro, because I look back at networking, and back then I used to think there was definitely a science behind it. Like, and there is, right? There's psychology behind it. You know, there's different strategies and tactics, I guess, to network, especially if you're trying to like raise your identity and maybe change your inner circle, you know, whatever that looks like, right? But bro, like when I really like think about it and I think about like the mechanics and like just everything like in its entirety, it's not as complex as you think, you know. And I'm not saying that you're saying that, but like just me reflecting back and, you know, just thinking about it, because right when I started my podcast, bro, right, it wasn't easy just getting like these random people of high influence just to like, you know, who's a stranger inviting me to their house to be on this podcast, right? And so I had to find like very clever ways. But when you think, like when I look back and I think of like how like, you know, I was able to get my desired outcome, which was to connect with them and convince them to hop on my podcast and, you know, and all that stuff. I look back and I'm like, man, dude, like it wasn't as complex as you think. Like it's just like for me, like if we're gonna get into this, you know, this topic, it's just like, yo, I just want to be surrounded by good people, right? It's like
That's that open and honesty piece, right? Like that was
yeah,
that's what I meant by the intuition. That's what I mean by unscrupulously stole that from you,
yeah.
because you are 100% authentic across the board. Yes, you had a desired outcome of having people in any venture that you went into. I mean, you're a prolific businessman, and I respect and admire that about you as well. But like the reality is that your authenticity was your thumbprint, your trademark, and that authenticity was what got you into the door. That's what kept them around, and that's not only what kept them around, that's what facilitated deeper and deeper relationships. And it was at the time, especially for me, it was something to behold, man. Like I was like basking in the glory of Ejay Cruz, because like the people that you were talking to, the people you introduced me to, I hung out with and started businesses with and did things with, because
Yeah.
we all had this in that circle, especially at that time, was like, we just want to do cool shit and we want to be amazing at things, and we want to be surrounded by people that have a similar virtue to them, where they're
Yeah,
also being authentic, they're also being honest.
absolutely.
And the thing that you really taught me during that time, whether you knew it or not, was that there was a starvation for authenticity.
Mm.
Everybody had filters, and I mean, this is 5 years ago, so it was like filters and you know, Instagram, what perceptions and like all this stuff, and everybody's out there creating caricatures of themselves.
Mhm.
They had personalities, right? They were Instagram personalities, but they were different when you met them. And the thing that you really highlighted for me in experiential data, meaning I experienced that space with you, was the authenticity piece. There was such a starvation for it because you had all these filters and all these personalities and caricatures, that when you came across people that were just real
Yeah.
and said what they wanted to say and did what they wanted to do, and they weren't looking for validation and approval, they were merely like, you on board? No, cool, I'm going to do that anyway. That
Yeah.
authenticity was what really drew me to you, and I wanted to be, and that's why I started to adopt that from you. That, and I give you credit to that. I definitely would have been a different person had I not come in contact with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And you know, that's funny you say that, bro. Like that means a lot to me, but it means actually it means the world to me, because I'll tell you this, bro. I'll tell you, like from observing you and your growth, like I feel like you're your true authentic self. Like for sure, bro. Like you know what I mean? Like you've
Yeah,
matured, you've grown, and you say what it is, and you don't give a fuck. And I appreciate, like you know, again, I appreciate that. Like that's honorable, that's admirable, and you're being authentic, exactly like what you just mentioned. And it's just crazy because you're right, man. Like I think I don't know, like for me, I just at the end of the day, like you're either gonna fuck with me or not.
yeah,
And at some I like to me, like I always have I really have this, like I don't want to call it a theory or a concept, but I really truly believe that everyone has like this bullshit barometer or like meter or like, you know, like the intuition, like exactly what you said. Like I know if this guy's full of shit, or I know this person, like, wow, this is a great person. Like I want to like associate one with this person because he makes me or she makes me a better person. And that's where I want to be,
yeah.
right? Because I want to be a better person, right? I think like every high achiever, like such as me and you and anyone else, our goal is to become better and the best version of ourselves. And that's
100%.
an endless chase. We know that, right? Because there's no such
Yeah.
thing as being perfect or the ultimate version. But if we get near to that, right? We want to be around authentic people, man. And so I, you know, again, and likewise too, it wasn't like, you know, I appreciate the kind words, but at the same time, there's a reason that me and you maintain that relationship, because again, you were just as authentic, right? And so, and dude, me and you, we've gone through massive growth. We've gone through a little spirals too. I'll admit that, right? I know a lot about you. You know a lot about me.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, man, it's just I have that appreciation of just being real, just like you, bro.
Yeah.
Right. I appreciate, like, again, I feel society is so fucking conditioned, and like people are just, they like it's all just a front, man, to impress people.
Oh,
And
100%. And
you know,
that bullshit barometer is so finely tuned now.
yeah.
And people ignore it, right? Like a lot of people try and ignore it because they don't want to be the person to call it out.
Hmm.
And that's one of the first things that I help like clients that come in for like confidence training and self-respect training, things like that. Is like, you have to understand that as you put it, the bullshit barometer is so fine tuned that
Yeah.
it doesn't matter why you're not being honest. They don't know. But what they do know is something feels off and they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. So if you come out and you're super insecure about something, they're going to feel you're super insecure about something. They
Yeah.
don't know why. They just feel like something's off, and they may, depending on their own experience, they're going to apply their own label to it. Oh, he's about to sell me something. Oh, he's about to do something. Oh, he's super manipulative. Oh, he's, because of their own experience. When in reality, maybe you're like, oh man, I'm a nerd. Nobody likes me. Right.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that example that I love, which is when you pour a glass of water into another glass, if you pour it slowly and kind of not confidently, it'll pour all over the place and make a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just pour it, you drop very little water.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I see authenticity is. Like, if you kind of, like, I hear people talk about this all the time of like, oh, aren't you afraid of being judged if you're too over the top, if you're this or that? And it's like, no, because that's my confident self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that bullshit barometer is going to pick up, is if I'm not going full bore honest the way that I do. I'm not saying I'm going to be fucking like rah rah in your face, because that's just not my way. But authentically, if I'm not speaking my truth, if I'm not speaking and aligning with the way my character works and the pull that my spirit has, somebody's going to know something's off. It'll be absolutely apparent, and that's going to lose me possibly a great relationship, a great friendship, because they don't know why I'm like that, but they can feel that there's something off.
Yeah.
And so by nature, that bullshit barometer is going to ding, and they're going to be like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah.
And watching you with people that at the time, like, again, we were in a space of like, we were very ignorant, right? Like, we would just got into it. We had no idea where we wanted to go. I think you and I followed each other through different iterations of paths that we wanted to take.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but seeing you around people that at the time I would have said were high echelon, well above where I, like, my station was at the time, and where that I would have said had their shit together. You just kind of gelled and flowed through that space so authentically and easily that I couldn't help but want to be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was great to be around, and at the same time speaking to that, to we followed each other through a couple different things. One of the hardest things for me was stepping away from something that you invited me into.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because, like, honestly, like, I wanted to be there because you were there. But
Yeah.
I also knew authentically it wasn't for me. It wasn't. And that's when I went to you. And it caused me a lot of contention and pain to walk away from you, because I didn't have that access to you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I knew I could text you and I knew we could connect, and like, I wasn't worried about that. But it was like a real time access all the time where we were around each other all the time. And so that was the hardest decision for me to walk away from that, not because of what it was, because I already knew that it wasn't for me, but because I was walking away from you. And that says a lot, because I don't do that with a lot of people. Like, I don't really care. Like, I'm compartmentalized. I'm like, that's not
Yeah.
my thing. You're not really that important. But with you, like, it was a contention point for me, just being honest. Like, I really missed that, and still do to some degree, that connection that we had when we were on the same path together, because I just got to be around you all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate the kind words, man. But let me ask you this too, because this is a two-way street, bro. Like, you express how much I've influenced you, but you influenced me by being how raw you are. And I will admit, and I'll be vulnerable right now, I will tell you as much as you may think I'm authentic and other people think I'm authentic, and I do too, right? Obviously. But I will say there's a part of me that struggles a little bit, and I want to get your opinion since we're on this topic. When you're trying to do incredible things, be great, be a person of light and a person of influence, do you feel that like at some point there needs to be, I don't even know how to word it, but kind of like maybe a strategic way and kind of like again being authentic? Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah.
Like still being authentic in who you are, but you kind of want to do it strategically or maybe carefully because again of what you're trying to accomplish. Right? Like maybe I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. Like for me, again, I want to, one of my goals is to be, I want to be a beacon of light. And I think you've always known that.
Oh
And
yeah.
to me, sometimes being a beacon of light is you have to approach other people in different ways. Maybe those that are out of character, people with different identities, right? But sometimes when you do that, there may be that fine line of not being your true authentic self a little bit, right? And so I'm curious to think what you think about that. Because I will tell you that's something I kind of struggle with a little bit when my goal is to reach the masses and just be that beacon of light, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I would say it's a shutter. Okay. A lot
Okay.
of people, I'm going to use your beacon of light concept to kind of speak to this. You are a beacon of light. Now, depending on the outcome you're looking for or the utility that your beacon is being served for, if I just want to be a beacon that like a lighthouse, I'm the beacon that's standing still and I'm sending my light out as far as I possibly can in every direction that I possibly can so that people can find a safe harbor with me and find their way to me. Okay, well, I'm still being my authentic self because it's the same light versus I'm talking to a guy right here and I'm meeting him where he is. And this happens a lot in my coaching space. I talk about like men needing to step up and be something bigger, right? Well, in order for me to help people get to that next level, I have to meet them where they are, which means I could barrel over them with all of my light, with everything that I have, be as intense as I'm capable of being, which you see me on my social media, and be like, you know what, bro, this is the excuses you give yourself, and I can be really abrupt. Or I can realize that this person came to me in a vulnerable state. They may be a raw nerve. They realize they're insecure and they're sharing with me that they're insecure. So I shutter it down.
Mhm.
And now instead of being this broad and immense and overwhelming light, now I'm merely just a spotlight, gentle and serene, that makes you feel warm and incredibly accepted.
Dude, I freaking love that, man. I
So
love that.
it's not that I am absolving myself from the responsibility of my authentic light. I'm merely changing the shutter to allow as intense or as soft as I believe, using the discernment of my leadership upon the person to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Right? You look at the Bible, for instance, and I use this because it's an extreme case that everybody sees, right? Like you look at the Bible, there's the burning bush that is an abrupt miracle to happen. But there's also the lay of hands where he merely touches and you're healed and there's no fanfare. It is
Mhm.
merely you're walking now, you're healed now, you're no longer suffering. Now some people need abrupt fire and other people need a lay of hands. It doesn't mean that you're you're less authentic because you're not beaming this abrupt and overwhelming light on somebody. Instead, you're being more authentic because you're connecting with them on a more visceral and corporeal level. And you're saying, hey, I know where you're at. But even though I know where you're at, I know where you can be. I know what you can accomplish. I know where your strengths are. I know what you can drive through and you can come from and you can backload into. I know what you can be. But if I go to you and I say, here's all of your potential, then you're going to back off and be like, whoa, bro, I wasn't looking for that. But if I come to you and you go, do you think I'm really good for that? And I go, we may see. Let me show you the way. You're going to walk with me a while. And over time, that shutter is going to open. and it's going to get bigger and it's going to get brighter. But by that point, you've already gotten comfortable in the light that I've already shared, the authenticity that I've already shared. And so by the time that my light is at full force on you, and I'm telling you, you're a motherfucking king, do not take less from this, because if you do, you are backloading your own fucking progress. Don't fucking do that. And I do that to you. You're no longer going to go, whoa, bro. You're going to go, yeah, you're right. Because I've walked with you a while on this path, and this path has shown me that you're right. And so now it doesn't feel like it's overwhelming. It's going to feel like that is the wave. That is exactly what I needed. And that's going to carry me to the next wave. And it's going to carry me to the next safe harbor. It's going to carry me through the next storm. That is a shutter. And it's not disingenuous, and it's not less authentic. It's merely you comporting yourself with the discernment of a leader and realizing that, yes, I have the capacity to be an overbearing wave of hurricane winds, but I also have the gentle touch of a single drop of sunlight that opens up the dew on a leaf in the morning. And if you can manage the balance between the two, your light will support that much more people, because not everybody's going to be able to sit in the sun all day long without burning. But there will be some that can. But there's also some that aren't going to open up from a single touch of the ray. But there will be some that can. So you have to know how to manage your shelter, and that's your shutter, and that's what you've done so eloquently in the past. It's not a disingenuous space, right?
Yeah.
And to go back to your original question, to digress off of this kind of soapbox that I've taken here, do I comport myself intentionally? I do. If you look at my Instagram, you have never seen me verbalize or video record any political, ideological, or sociological stance. Never once. It's always typed. This is by design. I am being my authentic self by typing it, but I am typing it in a way that absolves it of emotion so that I can reach in and touch people poetically, to circumvent the emotional triggering, to seek the logical. Because when you read something, it's not as the same as when somebody tells you. Because if I tell you that stuff, you're going to feel like I'm telling you how to think. But if you read it, you're going to feel like you're learning something. Versus when I give my opinion on something, or I give something very matter of fact, I'll speak on that. And you'll see my voice, because you need to hear me say that you're capable. You need to hear me say that you're going to do big things. You need to hear me say, do not listen to the men behind statues that whisper sweet nothing. You need to hear that. But you don't need to hear me get on fire and brimstone on politics and social and it doesn't help anybody. So it's very intentional. I never feel disingenuine because it is me.
Yeah.
Right. One of the biggest guides that I can give somebody that feels disingenuine is there is no right or wrong path. There is only the path. And you're either walking it or you're standing still. If you find a stop in the path, if you find a fork in the path, if you find a wall in the path, it doesn't make it the wrong path. It merely means you're still walking.
Yeah.
So walk the path.
Yeah. That's good, man. That's solid information, man. And I asked that because as someone that cares so much, right? You always every now and then you start to ask yourself, like, man, is this the appropriate way, right? Is this the appropriate way? And am I still being myself? So dude, that's awesome, man.
And
Good stuff.
that's a great question that I would argue too many don't ask, which gives more power to your legend in my mind as Ejay Cruz, because so many men fall on either side of the pole. There's a polarity, right? And I teach temperance when it comes to men. And so on one side, they never question. They have so much ego that they're like, I'm fucking smart as shit and nobody can tell me otherwise. And I'm a fucking amazing. So I never have to audit anything. And that's where you get narcissists and you get people who try and manipulate and control a situation, because when it falls away from their own personal narrative, they have to control it. The other side of it is everybody's narrative is more important than theirs. They never audit because they let everybody else audit for them. And then they lose their baseline, and then they never know what weighs up. It's like scuba diving in the dark and you find yourself upside down and you're just going towards the bottom and you don't even realize it. So the temperance is that audit. Looking at it, go, is that the right way? Am I too much? Is this the most appropriate way for this? That audit should always come from a place of, the outcome. What is the outcome? I want to help, I want to serve, and I want to be authentic. If those are all, I'm helping, I'm serving, and I'm authentic, then that answer is always, that's the appropriate response, because it's for the outcome. And it doesn't matter how other people receive it, it's how you see it, the outcome. Am I getting the resolve that I'm looking for? And if people aren't for it, people aren't for it. They're not going to receive it. Some people have demons that you irritate just by being nice to them.
Yeah, yeah.
The other day, somebody walked by me and they were frowning, and I was like, hey, how you doing? They're like, fuck you. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Enjoy your day.
Yeah.
Obviously, they were having a fucking moment. And
yeah.
and old me would have gotten mad, but new me is kind of like, been there. Feel you. Whatever's happening, I hope that storm passes soon, because that sucks.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That's
I did not go, oh, I shouldn't have said hi.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It reminds me also, I have this thing, especially in our business or just in general, actually, where people seek help, but even then they seek help. And when the help is there, they still don't want to help themselves.
I call them ask holes.
You call them what?
Ask holes.
Ask holes?
They'll ask everybody around them for an answer, but they won't take any of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes I have grace for them, right? Like, I say it and it's funny, but it comes off very judgmental, and I'm not judging you, but I have told people, you're an asshole because you want the information, but you won't take it.
Yeah.
And I over the last 2 years, I've learned where that stems from. I've dived into a lot of neurology. I've dived into a lot of psychology. And you know where that comes from?
Or
they don't trust their own decision-making ability.
So
it has nothing to do with
so it's a lack of confidence too, right? Obviously.
It's a lack of confidence and self-respect. They respect everybody else's opinion more than their own, to the point of they can't even decide whose opinion they're going to serve. Right? So guy 1 says chocolate ice cream is best. Guy 2 says strawberry ice cream is best. Guy 3 says vanilla ice cream is best. And the whole time they're going, what do you think is the best ice cream? What ice cream should I get? Meanwhile, they fucking hate chocolate, but they won't say it because somebody else said chocolate's the best.
Yeah.
They don't have enough self-respect to realize I am important enough and I'm in control of my life enough that it doesn't matter what ice cream they like, because they're not the ones fucking eating it.
Yeah.
So it sucks. It's a shitty place to be. Because and unfortunately, business takes advantage of it now, which makes it 10 times worse. Which is why I've talked to you before. I hate salespeople, which you're not. So I don't want to accuse you of that if that's the way it's coming off. You're not by any means. And I don't like salespeople because the schemes that they have are like especially in the men's category, right? Like men's coaching. Oh, I thought you were the man of the house. Can't make a decision without your wife. So wait, this guy came to you insecure, wants coaching on how to be more confident and self-respect, and you pressure sale him and shame him into buying your program? Like, you're a shitty fucking person.
Yeah.
Dude, like, if you come to me and you're like, yo, I got to text my wife, be like, I'm going to applaud it. I'll be like, hey, bro, it's really cool that you give her the respect to fucking check with her before you do that, because you guys are a team. I get that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was a life partner, crying out loud.
Partner, bro. Like, but there's so many people that are in that space of like, they don't know how to make their own decisions, and then they go talk to a salesperson and they get shamed into it. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They ask a question, they get shamed into buying a product. That product doesn't serve them. So then their woman gets mad at them. So then they go back and they go to the salesperson and they're like, listen, my woman's pissed because you didn't deliver on what you said. And then that guy shames them and says, well, you just didn't understand the sales pitch. And then they goes back to, oh, I didn't understand the sales pitch. So she's like, so now you're stupid, right? So then they're just going in a circle.
Yeah.
When the reality is, what all they had to do was either with the salesperson or with their person, sit down and go, listen, I thought that this was the best option that I had at the time. I really thought that this is the best. If it comes out that it's not, I'll take that too. I'll take it on the chin. But it was a mistake. I'm not stupid. But they've been beaten down for so long, they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to speak to that.
And what that salesperson did was basically beat them down some more.
Exactly. It's self-fulfilling. And then they go to their woman. The woman beats them down some more. So it just creates a system of, and honestly, this is education in a nutshell.
No.
Like our current education system, why I'm building Heroes Veritas into the education system that I'm building it into, it does exactly this. It creates trauma bonds. You're too stupid without us. Sit down and shut up. Regurgitate what we say. If you don't, consequence. And then you get done. Well, if you didn't learn it, that's on you. That's not on us. Yeah, okay, narcissist. Like fucking like you didn't teach me anything.
Yeah.
Right. And then we get, especially men, because I focus on men, 18, 19, 20, 21, they go and get a girl pregnant because they're in love and they have this family. Where was the leadership training?
Yeah.
So they go back and they're like, listen, I went through school. You told me I was stupid. I did everything right. I was valedictorian. I crushed it in college. I was a fucking superhero. But now I'm a dad and I'm fucking scared and I don't know what to do. They're like, well, you're a fucking man now. Figure it the fuck out. How? You've spent 20 years telling them how to follow. Nobody told them how to lead.
Yeah.
So our entire culture and society in today's world, to your point, and I know I'm talking more than you, and I really don't like that. I usually like my guests talking more.
I did this on, by the way, I did that on purpose. You know me, I'm a podcaster myself. So
oh, I know. Tricky. So the reality is that we've created a system of non-thinkers.
Yeah.
And then pull the rug out from underneath them when it matters the most and say, go think.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then I'm not going to judge you when you can't think. You've been built to not think.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I can do? I can see into your heart. I can see into your spirit. This is something that I've been given. This is a gift that I have. I can talk to you and know exactly how good you are at something. Don't know where the gift came from. I'm grateful every fucking day for it. But I can look at somebody and be like, I know your story already.
Yeah.
Because I'm open and I'm honest and I'm authentic and they can't help but tell me. This is what I struggle with. This is what I have problems with. This is great. Guess how you fix it? Realize you have the problem. You don't even need me. You don't need me.
You acknowledge it and recognize it, bro.
Acknowledge it and then become intentional. Go fucking, what don't you like about yourself? Well, I don't really speak up. Okay, create systems that help you speak up. Go to the fucking Starbucks down on the corner. You'll never see these fucking people again and fucking order something with your chest. Say it with your chest.
Yep.
I want a tall Americano. I want a Java chip venti with extra cream and it doesn't matter.
You know it's funny that you say that. So I tell a lot of people too who have that lack of confidence and speaking to people. I'm like, yo, you want to take the ultimate test? You go and hopefully you won't get in trouble, especially if you're married or you have someone, a wife that's really, really attached to you. Go talk to a freaking girl. Go talk to a single, like a girl at the club, the bar, whatever it is, right? And just strike fucking conversation, man. Just strike conversation. You don't even have to like do anything very intentional or try to get numbers or, all that stuff. But, you really want to get out of your comfort zone, getting used to being a people person and communicate. You do something very, very out of the ordinary, right?
Put yourself in the worst, most anxiety-ridden state you can.
Yeah. Yeah, or
exactly.
or you like when you go to the grocery store, start a conversation with the person that's in the freaking aisle, right?
That's awkward as fuck. I did that.
Yeah,
I did that when I was trying to get out of my shell and talk more. When I wanted to become a public speaker and get on stages and speak to 2,000-3,000 people, 5,000 people, 1 million people, I became very intentional about that. And I went and talked to people at grocery stores.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
They're
like, who the fuck is this guy?
Exactly. What are you gonna sell me? Right? Like, what are you gonna sell? I wanted you to have a good day. I did that. It's fucking weird. It's
hey,
really
man, but say, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's just say, and then I don't want to speak on behalf of my alcoholism, right? But let's just say maybe you're in like the alcohol section and they're getting a particular drink and you're like, yo, is that the new thing?
Yeah.
Or like, how do you dress that up? Or like, what do you mix that with? Right. I'm not familiar, like just things like that. Right.
Just ask what you're ordering. You like those? I've never had them. I've always thought about trying them. I've done that. You ever, they'll be grabbing something super benign, like crackers. I've never had those crackers. Those taste pretty good. They're like saltines. They're like, bro, you've never been sick?
Yeah, I know, right?
And it's weird because to that experience, it is awkward because you get equal amounts of like disdain. People are like, why are you talking to me? And then, especially if it's female, she's like, is this guy flirting with me? Like he's bringing, and then you're just like, all right, well, have a great day, and walk away. And they're just like super fucking confused. And they're like, what the fuck just happened?
Well, let's explore that. Let's explore that topic real quick, right? I think we're in a time and age right now where it's like, I'm married for crying out loud, right? But like, it's just like you see this, right? There's an expectation of like, yo, there's no more fucking gentlemen out there,
Yeah.
right? But then when someone tries to be a gentleman or strike conversation, all of a sudden they're fucking creepy. Does that make you know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of weird how like that is, and that doesn't even have to be on regards to this topic, right? Sometimes depending on like exactly what it is, but that's just like a really really good example. Is that society? It's kind of like, made it seem like it's this one label, but it's like, what the fuck? Like you can't have both.
Yeah.
Right. You can't have a gentleman and a creeper. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
it comes down to nuance, right? I had this conversation with Ryan King on one of the podcast interviews that we recorded, and he was talking about how men seem to feel that there's only two sides of the spectrum. They're either hyper masculine or they're effeminate. There's no nuance to men. Like you're not allowed to be into masculine stuff, traditionally masculine stuff like sports, and also like to knit. Like those are extreme examples, but that's the problem. Is society is now kind of created these broad spectrum, broad brush statements, to your point of like, you're either a gentleman or a creep. But if you're a gentleman, you could also be a creep.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to pick one, and then you got to figure out what the nuances is, and then that's creating another space of like men never feeling like they can be good enough. Right?
You know what's so crazy that we're talking about authenticity and this subject is the fact that for example, right? I'm like, no joke, bro. I like, you might see this other side of me. Maybe it's masculine, maybe it's like an authority, maybe it's a fucking leader. But I'll tell you this right now, man. Maybe the whiskey's talking a little bit, but I'll tell you this right now. I am such an intimate person, especially when it comes to my relationship, right? With my wife.
But I think that's
right?
why you have the authenticity.
What's that?
I think that's why you have the authenticity.
Yeah.
The intimacy is why you are networking so beautifully well. You can't help but be intimate with you.
Bro, I tell my wife all the time. I'm like, dude, I'm never gonna change. I'm letting you know right now. Like what you get right now, I promise you, I'm gonna be like this for a long time. Yeah. I'm gonna be intimate all the time. I'm gonna be this all the time, right? And I think like you spoke about it earlier, right? We're kind of jumping from topic to topic, but now I see like the cohesion with all of it. Self-respect, right? Self-respect and having confidence in yourself. And it's funny that you kind of brought that up because I did an exercise recently with my team, right? And think about this, Tim, real quick, like visualize it, right? You kind of like everyone in the world, right? Men, women, we wear so many hats, right? So if you were to take a circle and where you were to list like all these hats, whether that's, father, brother, maybe like church leader, entrepreneur, whatever it is, provider, whatever, right? And I did this exercise one time where I asked everyone, well, okay, hey, after, you list all these hats in a circle, rate yourself on what on how good you think you are. 1 being the worst and 10 being the best, right? And, everyone wrote it down, right? And then in the middle, I said, okay, draw another circle. So a circle within a circle. And then they had their hats and they rated it on the outside. But in the middle circle, okay, cool. Now I want you in this middle circle, rate yourself in its entirety, what you think of yourself just as a person, right? And what we found is there was a huge, like, there was a huge gap. There was like a huge, like, there was a mislink there. And that had to do with self-respect and the confidence in themselves and what they think of themselves, like their self-image, for example, right? And one of the things I think you know this about me too, Tim, is the fact that I truly believe that you have to be, I have this, it's like, I feel like I got to trademark this thing. You got to be your ultimate hype man.
Yeah.
Meaning like you got to be the one rooting for yourself, because you're not rooting for yourself. Who's rooting for you?
Yep.
Some people don't have that privilege or that opportunity of or the blessings of having a real association, right? A real environment of uplifting, of encouragement, right? And at the end of the day, you have to think highly of yourself, right? And I think something too, if you think about it, Ed Milet spoke about this, and I thought it was fascinating, right? In regards to we're kind of conditioned into thinking, maybe you heard this too, Tim, is that when we spend so much time, like we have so many hats, right? And like one of the biggest things is we think we have to stretch ourselves to fucking fulfill all these fucking hats, right? And so maybe I'm spending so much time in my business, but then my family's suffering, right? Or whatever it is, right? Like I'm spending, I dedicate time to this. Yeah, something is suffering, something is sacrificing. And oftentimes we think that it's because I'm spending so much time in this, but in reality is that there's an underlying problem with that, and there's correlation. So for example, if I'm like if my fitness is up to speed and I'm feeling good and like, oh my gosh, I'm doing great, right? I'm losing weight, I'm in my peak state all the time. That automatically translates to like, hey, dude, you're going to be doing good in your business, right? Or for example, some people think also like for example, too, another one, probably the better one is like, hey, if my faith is strong, right, and I got a deeper connection with God, right, that's going to translate to my family life, right? But oftentimes we want to blame this other like role, and we think because of this, that's why this one lacks. When in reality, there's like more of like an underlying problem. So that kind of leads to the, you know, the concept of thinking like, oh, we need a balance, right? We hear that all the time in the entrepreneur stuff. They go, oh, there's balance. You need balance of this. You need balance of that. I'm like, fuck that. There's no fucking balance.
No,
You know what
there's
I
only
mean?
24 hours in the day. There's no balance.
Yeah, yeah. And so, again, it's just speaking of going back to this self-respect, the confidence, the self-image, man, it's something that a lot of people need to work on. And that could stem from so many different things, like you said, right? Some people are taking advantage of, which is very, very unfortunate. And the fact that you bring this up, it's funny because I truly believe right now, Tim, and you are definitely one of them, is I just feel entrepreneurship in general and influences needs a new direction. If I could be honest, because I can't tell you right now, Tim, how sick and tired of it I am right now of these entrepreneurs, these people, these so-called leaders, and what they're doing is, they say they want to be of value, they want to be this fucking beacon of light, but in reality, their actions show that it all comes down to their pockets. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It comes down to
it's actually ironic to me. I just had this conversation with another entrepreneur, a younger entrepreneur, who did phenomenal, fucking killed it, absolutely smashed it out of the park. Got 300 people out to his first ever fundraiser, raised almost 10 grand, and he was beating himself up about how he set a goal for 30 grand and it didn't work out, and it was for veteran suicide. Like, it was an amazing event, and he was beating himself up about it. And one of the things that we talk about all the time is like influencers today, right? If you look at influencers that you and I have followed for the better part of the last, say, decade, right? Like 6 to 10 years. What are they all like? They're all angry. They're all fire and brimstone, and like, you better fucking do this or you're loser. Like, they're very aggressive.
Yeah.
And it's this work, work, work till you're dead. And if you're not working, your competition is outworking you, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that I told her is very similar to what you were saying. People are fucking over it. They're tired of the emotional trauma bonding. They're tired of the aggression. They're tired of dad shame, right? Because a lot of this is coming from male figures. And there's a reason that I don't allow myself on my rants on Instagram and IG Live. And you've never heard me tell people they're fucking shitty. You've never heard me lose my shit on my social media where I'm fucking yelling and screaming and like, ah, like fucking spit coming out of my mouth. There's a reason for that, because temperance is the way of the future. People are over the aggression. There was a place for it, stood out from everything, right? But the reality is, it's played out. It's a caricature, because at the end of the day, it's no longer authentic, because everybody knows you can't be that fucking angry You can't be that passionate as they coin it. Not saying that they don't have good value. They do. They have a lot of value. I've served for it. It served me very well, and it served you very well. And I don't want anybody like seeing this and like, oh, he's talking shit about all these people. I'm not. They are fucking phenomenal human beings, and they are doing phenomenal things. But to quote that you care, that to quote that you care about their life, and you truly want to see them win. On the flip side, and in the same breath, demonizing and chastising their shortcomings and their failures, and trying to create these trauma bonds of like, oh, you fell off the wagon, you're fucking shitty. If you were like me, you'd be better. If you were
Yeah.
like me, you'd wake up at 4 in the fucking morning and grind until you died. Like, that is the sentiment that we're getting in social media and entrepreneurship today.
Yeah.
And the conversation is I'm talking with 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 26-year-olds as I'm coaching them, and I went through the same challenge of like, I let the influence of people who are successful change my goal set and my direction and my priority, because I forgot the outcome I set out to do, because I let them shame me into changing my outcome. It
Yeah.
wasn't their fault. It was my responsibility, right?
Yeah.
I'm not blaming anybody, but like, say True Rain. That was a movement-based apparel company that I built. You know what failed it? I stopped communicating about the goal, the outcome, the value-based, the mission statement, and I communicated what I was told to communicate about. Instagram algorithms, numbers, blah, 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 blah. Like it, and then my authenticity failed. And when my authenticity faltered, it faltered because people do not pay for products. They pay for relationships. They pay for a solution. And
Yeah.
I forgot that along the way because I was listening to these people who were treating me like crap effectively. And that's where social media, people are tired of it.
No.
They want authenticity. They want connection. That's why you see the more you open up about your truth, your story, your life, more people follow,
Yeah.
right? Because they want to be in a community.
Yeah.
So like, I agree 100% with you. Like, the way that it's been working is not going to be the next 10 years.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would add on to that is I get frustrated with people who want to be in that circle. That table's closed. That table's been closed for 15 years. They're in their 40s. They're super hyper successful. They're only hanging out with other hyper successful people.
Yeah.
Start building your table. You're the next generation. Build it the way you want. Build your table. And when you get to a point where your table is adding value, you'll get invited to those and you'll get the opportunity to decline. And then they'll want to join your table. But so many people are trying to become successful by association.
Yeah.
If I just talk to them, if I just get a picture with them, if I just get them here, if they just hear my idea, it's like, no, it won't. They're full up, bro. They don't need any more friends. Build your own fucking table.
Yep. It's so true, man. And another thing too is I truly feel some of these bigger people too, and I'll even say it on air to call them out. Like I feel that some of them lost their touch, and what I mean by that is they're in a like they're so fast forward from where they were back then, from their struggles, where they came from, their humble beginnings, and I feel like some of them have lost kind of their way in regards to where they came from, and to remember like what you said, you got to meet some people at that level, right? Because there's like a huge gap and disconnect, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, yo, so and so, remember how it was like when you started. Imagine if you had, like, for example, for a guy is like, oh, I didn't have no fucking mentor. I just had to fucking go to work and do this and do that. But what about the times when you did fucking struggle? What about the times where you felt lost, or you fucking, you lost everything, right? There's other people out there who are struggling or going through the same shit. But imagine if they at one point were connected with a leader or a mentor in their life, how that could have changed their quality of life, or everything. You know what I'm saying? And that's the one thing that bothers me too in the industry is I feel like they've lost that touch. It's like, yo, man, there's a lot of people out there that come from different backgrounds, different circumstances, different events that you are completely being ignorant about,
Yeah,
right? And so I
yeah,
think like,
100%. I would agree. I went
yeah,
through that personally. I am
yeah,
a coach. I'm a fucking amazing coach. I've helped hundreds of dudes step into their power, be sovereign, and fucking change their life. I know I'm good at that. But when I talk to my mentors, they're like, have you built anything? No. Well, then you're not supposed to be a coach. But I already have proof that I helped them. But if you
yeah,
haven't built anything, you're fucking you're trash. It's like, well, bro, when you started your podcast, you hadn't built shit either.
yeah.
You
See that
built
shit.
that
See,
on the fact that you had a podcast.
bro, see, that's what bothers me, bro. And I hate to cut you off, but that's what bothers me because, yeah, like, what about them when they were back then, when they were just building? How much times were they, dude, how many times were they overlooked? How
Yeah.
many times were they going through all that fucking hardship? How many times did, they suffered with, with confidence and asking themselves, like, fuck, man, like, no one's giving me attention. People are ignoring me. I'm not getting phone calls back or DMs back or whatever, right? And I'm so sick and tired. Like, if I could be honest, like we hear all the time, like, whoa, don't take advice from someone that's not fucking conquering and whatever else you're trying to do. I'm like, that dude, that's not entirely true,
Well, because
right?
then by the time you get to that point, and this is the reality of human nature, by the time you get to that conquer point, how much of it is real? How much of what you remember of that struggle, of that journey, of that issue, of that problem, of that fucking hurt and pain, how much of it is still real? I would argue probably 90% of it is fucking gone. It
Yeah.
is a romanticized notion, right? Like I'll use my military service. I talked to military. This is really fresh in my mind, and I might get emotional, so I apologize in advance. But I just talked to a guy off a ledge who was in Iraq around the same time that I was in Iraq, and he was like, I left that phone call not thinking he was going to end that day alive. Like I was like, this guy's not going to make it the night, and it was really hard for me. And the reality was that he was romanticizing the trauma, and it was hurting him because
Hmm.
he saw it as this rainbow unicorn farts experience, and he's not that guy anymore, and that's what makes him suicidal. Now that's not everybody, that's just this one guy, but I know what that feels like. We do that in the military all the time. We romanticize it. We go back for another 8 years, whatever, right? But the reality is you're treated like shit. Most of us are treated like shit.
Yeah.
And the things that we want is the connection. And the things that we lose when we leave is the connection. So these all of our veterans, they get PTSD and they get all this bullshit, right? All these demons. And the reality is what they really need is a pub. A lot of people don't like talking about that because alcohol is shunned and whatever, but they need a fucking pub. And in
Mhm.
that pub, it's just people that can fucking sit there and be like, I was there. I knew what the fuck you were doing. I knew exactly how that feels. I know what it feels like to fucking hear something pop off and get fucking excited.
They want to be They want to be around relatable, or yeah.
And so now you have entrepreneurs who are so far removed for everything that when they talk to people, what do you hear all the time? People are fucking stupid. Just fucking Google it. Like, yeah, but that's not why I came to you. I could Google it,
Yeah.
but you're supposed to give me the knowledge that Google couldn't, right?
Yeah.
Or they're like they get frustrated because they've answered the same question for 20 years. Well, you've been a coach for 20 years. They've only been an entrepreneur for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Why are you pissed at them? Like that disconnect and the romanticization, right? Like I'll say another example here is like the entrepreneurship to get it a little bit softer and not be in this dark place with the veteran stuff. But you should do everything yourself. Okay, cool. How do I prioritize time? I need to have a marketing strategy. I need to have social media posts on all 5 platforms, 3 platforms, 5 times a day. plus recording my episodes, plus having a newsletter, plus getting lead generation, plus manufacture, plus sourcing, plus production, plus shipping. I was told, do it all. Meanwhile, I realized later, after trying to do it all and burning the fuck out, that this person hadn't done it all in 20 years, 15 years. Yeah. So I'm not saying that they're bad. Like I want to be clear here. I am not bad mouthing people. Everybody makes mistakes. We're all in different places. I get that. What I'm saying is that you have to be relative to what you are looking for from the person you were talking to.
Yeah.
I was going to somebody that was 20 years ahead of me, asking them what I should do. They were telling me to do it all myself because that's what they remember doing 20 years previous. They didn't have social media. They didn't have 5 accounts to manage and content and algorithms and marketing. And they didn't have all that. They had a place down the street that printed their shit. They had a place down the street that they bought their stuff from. They would go there, pick it up, go there, have it printed, have it at house. Everything to them that they remember, everything was not everything now.
Yeah, it was in that era. Yeah.
It was in that space. And so you have to create that relativity. And to your point, they're disconnected because they romanticize when they did it. It's been so far removed. 90% of the emotional attachment to it is gone. They probably told the story 1,000 fucking times. And as we know with guys and ego and everything, the fish went from this big to fucking this big. And we caught it, you know, in the middle of a storm off the edge of a boat, and my line snapped and I jumped in and caught it with my bare fucking hands. Did that really happen? Probably fucking not. But it's been 15 years since I caught that big ass fish that I mounted above my mantle, and it's my fucking story to tell.
Yeah.
And so there's this, you know, going full circle, the thing that really resonates with what you're talking about is the authenticity piece. I hope that when, not if, when Heroes Veritas' facility is up and live, and I'm the CEO of this multi-million-dollar corporation that truly serves as a beacon of light and education in the world, that truly creates a culture that people feel excited to be a part of, that I can still go downstairs, have a conversation with some random fucking dude and make him feel as important as my next of kin, as my best friend.
No.
Why? Because people want to be part of something more than themselves. We are communal fucking creatures. And to your point, most entrepreneurs have forgotten the fact that they are in a service industry. I don't give a fuck if you give a product or not. If you are on any type of social media answering questions, you are a service industry.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a fucking pretentious prat, you kind of lost the point. You forgot yourself. And like I said, I brought on a VP and a CFO to help me run Heroes Veritas. And that was one of the first conversations I had with them. I said, if I'm ever a fucking prat, I want you to slap the shit out of me and tell me. I refuse to be that person.
Yeah.
If as CEO, I get too big for my britches, I hope you fucking gut check me, because that is not who I want to be.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they're the people that are going to make this company work. Yes, I'm a figurehead. Yes, it is my idea. Yes, it is something that I believe wholeheartedly that I can bring to the table and I can fucking make things work. But if I don't have my team, if I don't have my people, if they don't believe in the vision of the tribe that I'm trying to build, then I am not qualified as a leader to build it. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that.
No.
A lot of people look at it and they're like, I'm the head of the product. No, you're the head of the people. You're the head of the community. You are the head of the people, which means you need to be sitting somewhere accessible that they can come and bitch their problems to, and you can fix it. And if you're not, then you're a tyrant.
Yeah.
You collect tax money and you let them fucking squirm. That's weird to me. I've been in rooms with CEOs like that.
Yeah.
I've been a public speaker, and I went out and I went to speak on a stage, and this guy was like, I'm the CEO. And I was like, cool. And he wanted me to have some kind of elation, admiration. I didn't know who he was. I had no fucking idea. And I was like, it's nice to meet you. I have no idea who you are. All right, cool. Do you know who I am? No. So your admin scheduled me. So let's not stand on pretense here and pretend like we're fucking doing a dick measuring contest of like for like. It's not the same.
I was just about to say it's a dick, trying to have a dick measuring contest.
I'm not about it, bro. I'm not about it. Because the reality is, this is the same person that I told you about that I was talking about, kind of the shift in culture.
Yeah.
We were talking about getting into dark spaces, right? Like negative thoughts and things like that. And he's like, I hope you know that if you ever get to a dark space, you call me. And I was like, I'm going to be honest with you too. I like myself too much. I realized that recently. I fucking love myself. I have one thing that I think about before bed every night, and I have for probably the last 10 years. If I am not me, and I do not speak openly, honestly, and authentically, how many people will suffer from my failure to be brave? How many people will suffer from my failure to do what I know is right?
So true. Yep.
That scares me more than anything. Ed Milet talks about something that really always resonated with me, and I know we've talked about it before. When he dies, he says he expects to see the man that he could have become, and he hopes it's the exact same person. You hope to be twins. Yeah. And I love it, because when I die, there will be a recompense, like a tally of the lives I could have saved, but I was too scared.
No.
The people I could have helped, but I was too egotistical, because the people that I should have been there for, I was too proud. Scares me to death, dude. Like legitimately scares me to fucking death. I wake up every fucking day grateful and happy as hell.
Yeah, I love that, man.
Because at the end of the day, if I'm not grateful and happy, I'm going to come across somebody that's not grateful and happy, and I could have made them grateful and happy just by being nice to them, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And it's businesses aren't built for money. People forget that businesses are built to solve problems. Money is a byproduct.
No.
Solve the fucking problems, dude.
It's supposed to be solution. That's why we talk about being solution based, man.
Yeah.
Being solution based. Byproduct of that is you could potentially make a shitload of money too.
Yeah, but you should be solving problems.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about you. Like, that was why it was hard for me to walk away from the financial game with you, because I knew you were going to fucking crush it, and I would have loved to be part of that. But I also knew that I had my own path. No. This was it. Like this is my calling. It gets downloaded into me. Like, I don't even know, like, half the time, like, I'm talking, it's not my words. I swear to God. Maybe it's the alcohol, but I swear somebody else from some other divine place is like, here's the words that I need you to fucking say in this moment.
Yeah.
And I just stopped fucking questioning it.
Yeah.
I used to. I know what it's like to feel like you're in a box. I know what it's like to feel like you're not confident. I know what it's like to not rally around your own vision, around your own person. I was in a really bad, it wasn't really bad, but it was mediocre marriage, and it led to divorce, my choice. And it was hard because I was in a fucking box. She did what she thought was best, and I let her do it. It's not her fault. It's mine. But the reality is, I will not be in a box again.
No.
And so stepping away from that, because I knew how amazing it would be to be under you as a leader, was hard. However, I couldn't fathom not having heroes. I couldn't fathom not having the vision that I have now.
No. And that's good, bro, because I tell people this all the time who come into the business. I say, hey, man, whether you stay or not, one of the good things about this business, it could be potentially a bridge. It could be potentially a bridge to your other passion projects, some of the other things you're trying to do, right? We have a saying in the business, bro. Like, it's not about like our crusade and mission's powerful, right? Our self-development stuff is powerful. Our solution to, things are powerful. Our business powerful. Our marketing strategy powerful. All that stuff, right? But probably the most powerful thing is the transformation of you as a person, like what you become, like what this business and model does to you as a person.
I would echo that. I would definitely double down on that.
And so that's what I feel what it did for you, right?
100%.
You didn't stay in the business, but what it did, it directed you to what it was, which was your true authenticity, which of course is what you're doing now,
And you have
right?
no idea how true that is, because I don't think I've ever told you that story. I thought about this like last month. I think I came to this realization. LFG led me to Sam and
Mhm.
Sean Whalen. Sam passed away unexpectedly, which broke me. I
Yeah.
didn't know what it, because he was the one that said, you need to be a coach. He was the one that said, you need to do this. So I did it. I literally talked to him 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
And he was like, we're going to talk next week. I didn't know he was in the hospital. He was still pouring into me at his lowest,
Yeah.
which to me is an example of what I want to try. I strive to be, because he was able to pour into me so effortlessly, yet so selflessly during
Yeah.
his worst time.
Yep.
And after he passed, I was like, I don't know what to do, dude. Like that like he told me to do this, and I'm halfway in. Like I'm just barely getting a toe into this. I have no idea what I'm doing. He said, you, and I'll never forget it. The last conversation I had with him, he said, there's two things I need to tell you, and I need you to just hear me. One, you have everything you ever gonna need to do what you want to do. Two, stop being a chicken shit. I will never forget those.
Yeah.
Next time I heard about him, I didn't even know he had passed away. I found it on somebody else's post. And then I reached out and I found out.
Yeah.
Broke me, dude. Broke me. About 3-5 months later, I don't know. I was spinning. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I was out of LFG. I was trying to do this coaching thing. I was trying to help people and I was succeeding, but I didn't know how to do the business side of it. I knew how to help, but I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know how to like have people value me enough to support me financially, right? Like that was hard for me. And I remember Sean on one of the Thursday takeovers, Sean Whalen. So I started following him, went back and forth. That led me to the Lions Den Live in 2020. No, 2021. And there was one fucking question that he asked. And then he kicked us out of the fucking auditorium. So I go here and I'm thinking we're going to get like all this value downloaded into us. And he said, I'm going to ask you to think on one question by yourself, no music, no podcast, no nothing. Just leave and think on this question. You know what that question was? Who do you have to become to get what you want? It started pouring rain on my walk. I walked in the rain, bro. You know what I came up with? I have to be a fucking king.
Mm-hmm.
Not king in this fucking cultural bullshit hypography caricature. No, I need to be so fucking good at everything I do that the people that follow me thrive at a level that they could only dream of. That kind of king. Where when you follow me, you become amazing. You become rich. You become successful. Your family fucking thrives for 6, 10, 15 fucking generations. That's what I came up with.
I love it, man.
If
So
I hadn't gone to LFG with no knowledge, I even got my insurance license. Like I got my license. I was ready to go.
yeah, yeah.
And I went to Sam and he was like, "What do you like more? Finances or helping people?" And I was like, "Helping people. But the finances will help me help people." And he goes, "It's not where you belong." And I was like, "So what do I do?" I told him I would be involved. And he's like, "Quit."
Yeah.
He was very blunt. He was like, "Quit. Do this instead." So he sent me on my way and he said, "Go figure it out." And I fucking went and figured it out and found Sean Whalen, went to Lions Den Live, and I'm going to be back there at Lions Den Live in June. And the minute he said, "Who wants to speak?" I was like, "Fucking me, bro." Because I know what this place does. I know what this stuff does.
Yeah.
I know what being around the right people does. So when you say like the power isn't necessarily in the business itself, which I was all on board. I loved it. I believed in it. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But it does change people. It is life changing being in that space, being around those people. Even
Yeah.
if it tells you it's not what you belong. It's not what you need. But your access to things is very fucking potent.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love to oh man, that's so good, man. I think also it's just, you know, you were just able to find your path, like I said, dude. You were able to find your path, and it's just remarkable, dude. Like you retrack like the steps of kind of like how you got there, and like, dude, like it's just crazy, man. Like
It's nuts.
now that you bring it up,
Semi-random.
I'm just like, man, dude, that's a crazy
It's
trail right there.
and that's why, like what we talked about earlier, the self audit is so imperative. Because if you take like if you take a 30,000-foot view of that, all of that would have seemed so fucking disconnected. Like you went and did insurance for like a month and a half, and then got insured, got licensed, and then stopped, and then became a coach. Like from that perspective, it seems so disconnected, so chaotic. But then when you look at it the way that I look at it, it seemed more ordained. It seemed more fated, right? Like everybody looks to their life, and I talk about this a lot. And we look at wanting to be a legend. We want to be a hero. That's why I named my company Heroes Veritas. Like we all want to be heroes. But there's this proclivity for people to believe that legends that we know of, Hercules or Heracles, depending on who you like, how you pronounce it, Achilles, fucking, I'm drawing blanks here, but like any hero that you think about from ancient history, Maximus Aurelius from like the Gladiator movies, William Wallace from the Braveheart movie, like everybody believes that they know their legend, that they had some kind of like divine knowledge, that they were doing legendary shit. But they forget the humble beginnings, which starts every single one of those stories.
No.
Like, if you want to be a hero, you want to be a legend, then you should stop worrying about being a legend and just doing the best that you can do in the moment you're provided with struggle, right? Right now in history, right now in time, the number one thing, especially if you're conservative of a conservative leaning political space, I can't tell you how many people come to me and go, it's the end of days. World's so fucked up right now. And I go, fuck yeah, that's awesome. And people are like, that's fucked up, dude. What the fuck's wrong with you? I was like, do you understand that where there are dragons, dragon slayers rise? Like you have to understand that when there is nothing to do, when there is no problems, when there are nothing to solve, we are limited.
Yeah, so true.
Our struggle defines our legend. Nobody gives a shit if it was easy for you. You build a 2 point, I mean, look at Trump. What is the number one people complain about Trump? Well, his daddy gave him the business. He's not actually that great of a businessman. Yeah, he borrowed millions of dollars from his dad. If it wasn't for the fact that he lost it and built it again, nobody would give two fucks.
Yeah.
Because your daddy gave it to you. You had it easy. Our struggle defines our legend.
No.
And it frustrates me sometimes, and I know I'm on my soapbox a little bit here, so I apologize to anybody listening, but how ignorant we are about our struggles. Like you said, we know the spirals. We know about each other. We've talked about it. We talked about the deep shit. We know, which is why we have a heavy respect for each other, because we know what we came out of. Like, I don't talk about my past because I'm not my past. You don't talk about your past because you're not your past. You're now, you're moving forward. You're just going. And there are so many people that latch onto that past and they use it as an excuse or a crutch or a problem or whatever. And they're like, I could never be legendary because my dad beat me. I can never be legendary because my dad left me when I was a kid. I can never be legendary because I'm just some nobody from whatever. I had this conversation with a woman recently. We were talking, we were connecting. She was like, I'm just a mom. I was like, don't you ever fucking say just a mom to me ever again. She was like, what? And I was like, there's no such thing as just a fucking mom. Like, do you understand how fucking insane it is to be a fucking mom? You created life with your fucking body.
Yeah.
Then you birth that body at great risk to your own health and body. And then you you learn to love something more than yourself could ever love anything in the world.
Yep.
And then you balance that with social pressures, obligations, family, your husband and or boyfriend, whether they're there or not, your family, your fucking job. There's no such thing as just a mom. And if you're a present dad, there's no such thing as just a fucking dad. Because you're literally defining a legend in the next generation.
No.
Everything will live and die on how responsible you are and how intentional you are on managing that responsibility. I know you, EJ. You're going to make your daughter a fucking queen.
Let's go.
I know. So if you ever tell me I'm just a fucking dad, I'd slap the shit out of you. Because you need a wake-up call. Because you're not just a fucking dad.
Hell no.
And that's the reality of the business that you do is you confront people with responsibility.
No.
You are your children's world. And if you're not taking your finances seriously, then you are not upholding your end of the bargain.
Yep. We have a Herculean task, brother, of what we're trying to do with the business and solve this, what I like to call a epidemic crisis, man. And so, but you're absolutely right. We have a full obligation. You know, we have to think about our future, the future generations, our kids, future leadership, and part of that is again going back to basically the whole discussion that we spoke about is just being authentic, right? Being authentic, and
everything is born from being authentic. Without it, everything falls apart.
We're authentic in our approach. We're authentic also when I'm even authentic when I disturb. And when I say disturb, it's like, yo, I disturb the people I get in front of because some people like to walk away or don't want to talk about what's coming, right? Such as death, such as being broke, such as losing everything, right? And so that's part of it as well, man. And so I can't tell you how much the authentic part goes both ways, bro. I've learned so much from you too. And like I said, I've seen you grown into your authentic self, like freaking beyond. Like you're a totally different dude.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely a different fucking dude. I love it. And it's funny because you look back, and I know you do the same thing. You look back and you kind of audit, and you're just kind of like, how the fuck? Like, how was I that guy when I'm this guy?
No.
You know what I mean? Like it's insane. And it's funny because it's the people that are closest to you that realize it.
No.
Right? Like my CFO, she's been my friend for 4 years. Was my client as a power lifter when I was doing personal training. And she became my sage, my confidant, my soundboard. I stopped coaching her, then went back and coached her again because she was having struggles. And I trust her implicitly. But when I was talking to her about doing this, she was like, yes, but not for who you were, but for who you are. Because you're so much more. She said it. She's like, you have way more conviction now.
Mm-hmm. I love
she's
it.
Like, back then you were just some arrogant 30-year-old. I didn't know. But now she's like, I believe it. It's like, yeah, because I believe it.
No.
And going full circle to authenticity. If you can't do what you believe, then nobody's going to believe you either.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we've had a lot of profound conversations this evening. We've talked a lot about things. And to be honest, you've made me talk more than I typically like to talk when I interview people.
I'm sorry. I must be a damn man. I must have some podcasting
I think
experience.
you need to go back to past podcasting. I think it needs to stop being a back burner. But the reality is that there's a weight to the authenticity. And I think a lot of people are afraid of it.
Yeah.
Right. Because the audit is the personal responsibility side of it. Right. Like I'm pro freedom. It's the same thing. It's like there's a weight to it.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to accept it. And if you're not, there's alternatives, but they're subpar and they leave you with a life that's not worth living.
Yeah.
And I can speak from experience. It's not worth living a non-authentic life.
Yeah.
And if you're on the cusp and you're not sure if you're living authentically, sit on your bed one day and take audit of how you feel by yourself. If you don't enjoy just hanging out, you're not living authentically.
Oh, 110% agree.
Because I love hanging out with me. Like my last interview, I think with Ryan King, I said this. It was like, when I go to a speaking engagement, when people want me to speak, when people want me to pour into their people, do you want to know the commitment that I have for that? I don't fly. I drive. You know why I drive? Because I audit everything up to the time that I get there. Now, that might not always be the case, because I may get to a point where I know myself so well I don't need that time. But right now, I audit everything on the way up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I do on the way back? I audit everything on the way back. How the speaking engagement went. What did I say? Did it hit home? Did people like it? Did they receive it? Did it resonate? Did I meet them where they were?
Better? Yep.
Was I arrogant? Was I too lofty? Right? Because I understand that I speak at a level that most people can't even believe. Right? Like, I have an idealistic brain. I have a gravitas to me that I speak to platitudes that most people are like, yeah, that's not realistic. And I go, that's not realistic for you, because you've never been put into a position where you've been expected to deliver on that degree. But I know you're capable. I know what you're capable of. I know what your strengths are. I know what your weaknesses are. I know what you can overcome that you don't even know you can overcome yet. So yeah, I speak loftier than most people, but at the same time, I know the human spirit is more indelible than most people give it credit for. So one day, when you and I are on a private jet cheersing in person, I know we're not going to talk about the money we have in the bank. I know we're not going to talk about the fine wines and heavy whiskeys that we're drinking. I know we're not even going to be talking about the cost of fuel or the fact that we're on a private jet. You know what? I know what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the people we changed.
Yep.
Because I know you and I know how we work. And that's why I love being around you. That's why I love you as a friend and as a person, because the reality of the world is that too many people care about I'm going to get mine mentality. That they forget that to get that, you have to get everybody else's, because the leaders don't care about results. They care about people. True leaders don't work with the clients. They work with their people. And if they focus on the people, everything else flows from that. And I know that's how you're wired. I know that's how you work. And so, you know, we got really deep tonight, and that could have been the whiskey. But I appreciate you allowing me to talk.
Absolutely, bro.
Because I needed this to talk to my friend.
Yep. Likewise.
And I needed to tell you how much I admire you. And I needed to tell you how much you changed my life. And how much without you I couldn't change other people's lives.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that a lot. I can't tell you the amount of growth I've seen in you, Tim, is just remarkable, dude. Like I said. And you're right. We're a different breed, because you know what our flex is, bro? It's not gonna be the jet, like you said, it's not gonna be the car, it's not gonna be all that. Yeah, we'll have our fun. Right. I know not only you're a fashion guy, but also you're a car guy too, to some extent, right?
Yeah.
And so, but my flex is, I don't picture that, right? I don't picture myself taking a picture with my Ferrari, my jet, and whatever the hell it is. My flex is actually, I see it. My vision is I see a picture with a group of people that I've impacted or have influenced. And to what you said earlier, I think one of the best gifts and blessings that God could give you is being able to change someone's life for the better when you meet them and leave them. That makes sense.
100%.
Right?
And that's why we click so much, because my vision isn't of, like you said, the cars. I love the cars. Or the jet, which I recently reached out to my best friend and I said, I can't wait to give you a high-end car just because. Right? Because I know I bring enough value to where I'm worth that, and I can re-gift that to him. 1963 Cobra GT, just send it to him. Just be like, I just thought of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I look forward to. But you know what? To your point, I don't dream about that. You know what I dream about? I dream about my funeral. And I know it seems dark, but I've dealt with a lot of death in my life. I've been around a lot of suicides. I've been a lot of death with the military. Like,
my greatest fear my entire life was dying alone.
Mm-hmm.
Was my greatest fear. And I recently came to terms with that about 5 years ago. And I realized there's no fucking way I'm going to die alone. Like, there's just no way. I'd have to fuck up really fucking bad to die alone. But the reality is that when I think about a successful life, I think about my funeral. I want standing room only. I want people flying in from all over the world. I want people to mourn my death, not because they are sad for my leaving the corporeal plane, but because of my mind, because of the value that they'd be losing, but also because I impacted them so wholly, so emphatically, that I would leave a hole. And everything flows from that for me. Right? Like with my friends, I love being called the Boy Scout. All my friends call me the Boy Scout because if you need something from me, a skill set, a knowledge point, a guiding hand, I'm your boy. I got you, because I've specifically developed myself in adding value. And so there's, like you said, we're a different breed. Most people are so focused on tomorrow. And most are so focused on what they're going to get out of what they're doing. And all I can think about, and all that I know you think about, is what I can bring to the table for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like what is it that I can change in you? What is it that I see in you that you don't see in yourself? What light that I can shine on you? In what capacity that is going to help you become the legend that I know you to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the rhetoric, king, legend, sovereignty, hero, it seems laughable to most people, but I fucking mean it. Because the reality is, even if you don't reach hero status, even if you don't make king or queen status, even if you don't make fucking baller status, you'll fall somewhere around there because you became intentional about it. You gave it your best. And that's all I want from people. I want people to live with sovereignty. I don't want people to question their baseline. I don't want people to wonder if their decision-making capabilities are compromised. I don't want people to wonder if they're good leaders, bad leaders, good moms, bad moms, right? Mom guilt is a real thing. I don't want them to question that. I want them to know, implicitly know, because they know their tribe. They know their 100 to 150 people that are in their corner. Because humans, evolutionarily, neurologically, chemically, we can't handle more than 100, 150 people close to us. It's physically impossible. Our bodies aren't developed that way.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you have 100, 150 people that you have guided, changed, mentored, developed, built, and spend your time with, that bring value to you and you add value to them, there's no more than you need. Everything else is tertiary. Everything else is easy because you can ignore everything else. And that's why I'm so very grateful to have you as a person in my life. Because yeah, you're a financial expert. Yeah, you have changed many people's lives, and I know you will continue to change people's lives. And I want people to go to you if they need financial help. But the reality is, there's so much more to that. They'll find themselves with you, like I found myself. You're a beacon, dude.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to say it.
I appreciate it, bro.
So I digress. I went a little into the deep water with the whiskey, but I think this is a great episode.
That was my idea, everyone. It was my idea.
Yeah, he did.
This is a complete setup, man.
Yeah. I blame EJ. No, I take full responsibility of going into the deep end with the whiskey. But it's been a long time coming. I wanted to have you on my podcast for a long time. But I wanted the podcast to be worthy of the greatness that is Ejay Cruz. Whether or not that I've succeeded in that, I am grateful for your presence, and it is all the better for you.
And I think this episode really highlights why you're such an amazing podcaster, because you got me fucking talking, and I'm usually the one letting the interviewee talk, because I brought you to add value to them, which, not saying you didn't, because we had some great conversations. But
It's interesting being a podcaster. What I found is a lot of people actually want to hear the podcaster talk more. And so they see the brilliance of you hosting and interviewing these other remarkable people, but in reality, you are the remarkable person yourself. If that makes sense, right?
reverse psychology and shit, you're not supposed to be doing that. But I don't think that's the case with my podcast, because generally speaking, I'm fucking pontificating. I'm putting my opinions out there every Tuesday, and now I am recently adding interviews every Thursday. So I don't necessarily think that's the case with me, but I do appreciate the kind words regardless.
No.
EJ, brother, I want to respect your time. I know we went over a little bit, but you truly are a remarkable human being, and it's somebody that I am so grateful and blessed to know. And I'll say it here on record. If you ever need anything, you let me know, and I will be there, which I've told you pretty much every time we've talked. But I want you to know I mean it from the bottom of my heart, and I hope that it rings true for you, because it's true. And I will never forget that I was one of the first people told about your daughter. That meant a lot to me. Meant a lot to me.
It's crazy that you say that, bro. It was actually you and also Sam, dude, that I told, one of the first people I told, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Crazy. Just thinking about it.
Man. I miss him. I didn't even know him that well, and I miss him, so I can only imagine.
Yeah.
He was one of he reminded me of you, and you remind me of him. So much light. It just, even when you're trying to be humble and just calm, like, it just pours out on people. I love it. I'm envious of it a little bit, because I'm not light. I'm darkness. I'm aggression and rudeness, but I'm working on it. I'm working on being light.
No, man, no.
But no,
you got your own beacon of light, bro. Trust me. There's different beacons out there, man.
Yeah, it's out there. It's wherever people find me. But no, I appreciate that. This has been an amazing conversation around self-respect, around confidence, around shining your light, authenticity. I mean, we touched on so much like deep stuff on this one, and I really appreciate you dragging that out of me, to be honest, because I didn't expect to have that deep of a conversation. And it's funny, like you and like pretty much every one of my interviews, I've had to like stop people because we get into it right away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, I should be recording from the beginning, because like we get into it right away. So no, I really do appreciate you. Do you have anything going on right now? Any projects that you have going on right now that you want anybody to know about?
Yeah, obviously with my business, with just trying to we're that distribution channel of trying to help others, guide them in the right direction when it comes to their finances and changing their quality of life and generational wealth. That's the apparent piece. But I will tell you this, Tim, I'm working on something. I can't really officially announce like the name and all that stuff yet, but what I will say is it's been within my heart to finally launch a nonprofit. And I think you notice about me, like with the parables and everything, the name is always like huge to me, right? It's kind of like, if you're starting your own clothing brand, right?
Which we spent a lot of time talking about your name as well.
Yeah.
On the clothing brand.
Yeah. And so I do plan on finally freaking launching that thing this year. And it's just something that it's been in my heart, and I can't wait to, it's going to be launching soon. Something definitely to help others, those in need. And I think just because, as you know, I love to network and connect with people, I think a lot of people can rally around it. I think it's something very universal as well. It's not something that's very, very like focused, where it kind of particularly just kind of caters to like I don't know, like maybe a particular group or race or whatever it is. To me, it's like pretty universal. And so I can't wait to launch that, man. And I know people like yourself, I'll have that support, and that little support could be as little as just like spreading the word. And so
you'll have more than that. We'll get you back on when you're ready to launch, and we'll do a full thing. We'll even host a fundraiser. We'll get people in a room, because the big thing is to the whole conversation we've had is authenticity. We'll know where the money's going, because I know if you're at the head of it, it's going to be authentic. I know it's going to be honest. So we'll get people in a room. We'll throw a big old shindig once it's ready to go, and we'll do it big. So
it's going to be an official 501(c) anyway. So
yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So no, that's fucking amazing. So keep an eye out. Be sure to follow Ejay Cruz on Instagram. And as that comes out and unfolds, we'll definitely be posting them up on our Instagram, but also we'll have you back out on the podcast so that we can do a full announcement. And I would love the opportunity to host an event for you on behalf of Heroes Veritas, to do that fundraiser, because I know that I can trust you. And that's one of the big things in today's world, is trusting where the money goes. And I know I can trust you. So
I appreciate that.
No, that's awesome. That's fucking awesome, man. So thank you so much for an amazing episode. I don't think I could have had a good episode like this, or an amazing deep dive episode like this, without you. So kudos to you as the podcaster extraordinaire. Funny story to anybody listening. He's the reason that I am as good at podcasting as I am, because he invited me to his podcasting group, and I learned everything I could from this man right here. I even studied all of his parables podcast, his cadence, his openings, everything. So, so definitely. And he's also the reason that I didn't stress being perfect, and I just sent it. So without him, I don't think Heroes Veritas podcast would have ever happened. So give him a follow. It's at Ejay Cruz. Do you have a website right now at all?
I do. It's just being revised, but yeah, it's the best way to get in contact with me is exactly what you said. My handle, which is across the board. I'm more on Instagram, but yeah, it's Ejay Cruz. But that same thing with Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. It's all the same handle. But yeah, if you need to reach out, need anything I can help with, whether that's networking, need some guidance financially, starting your own podcast, or just whatever. Here to shine that, again, that extra light as much as I could.
Appreciate it. Awesome. Well, as always, like, comment, subscribe, share. We grow only as far as you let us grow. So if you love the episode, make sure to follow Ejay Cruz. Even if you didn't love the episode, I guarantee you'll never regret it. Follow Ejay Cruz and follow us, subscribe, and check you next time on Heroes Veritas podcast. Thanks again, Ejay.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. It was a pleasure. Very, very blessed. Thank you.
Thanks.
You speak.